Hi, this is Kara. Welcome to Breaking Free Fridays, and welcome back if you've been following the series. It's great to have you here. Today, I was really inspired to talk about when choice doesn't seem possible. And part of the reason that this came up is I have spent a long time studying and learning and working different tools and processes to really master the law of attraction, the law of allowing, being in that flow state where there's just ease, and manifesting is just so like a part of life, but in a really easy way, not pushing or pulling or grinding to get there, which obviously is counter to the way it works anyway. But one of the things that I noticed in many years of reading different sources and watching different people talking about this is there's always this guidance around choice, and that it's really about envisioning and feeling and focusing on what it is that you want, not really what it is that might be in your actual reality in the moment that is a reflection of what you don't want. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, the guidance around, focus on what you want, it may be easier said than done, because when you're living in a reality of what you don't want and you're trying to bridge that gap to what it is that you really do want, there are feelings and a messy middle that's coming up in the process of gaining that mastery. And, there were a few things that I wanted to share that I thought were interesting and related to this. And one has to do with a finding that a Harvard brain scientist discovered related to emotion and the actual brain chemistry, the neural process that happens for an emotion. And it goes through in 90 seconds. So isn't it interesting that so many of us, at least I know this has been true of me, I can say that I've ruminated on different feelings much longer than 90 seconds. And so what is happening that takes us into a longer place of really sitting with that emotion, and it's not processing through. And what often is talked about related to this is that we get stuck in our head and we are thinking about it, and it just creates this looping. And one of the things that I've talked about in other videos comes back to some of the triggering responses or trauma responses that can actually create us really cycling through the same feeling, or even going deeper, because it actually is connecting to some wounding that's further back. And so it's kind of creates this domino effect. And so the more that we build our practice where we create additional space and capacity in our nervous system to experience life and to actually experience and flow through emotion, the better. But I don't know about you, but in my journey, sometimes I've gotten frustrated with things not happening faster, and I'll be working on some concept or some tool or technique, and I'm not seeing the results as quick as I would like. And then I want to remind myself, and I hope it's a helpful reminder for you too, that some of these concepts and these practices, they are things that we are retraining, rewiring, we're conditioning ourselves in a way that's pretty foreign to how we may have been conditioned from childhood into adulthood. Not only just the way that society kind of defaults to, but also familial narrative and conditioning and how that plays into pathways that we're trying to reprogram in a different way. And I want to offer not only myself, but to you, some grace around that, because it's almost like, we're expecting, would be akin to expecting a baby that's just learned to crawl to all of a sudden be walking masterfully the next day. And I know the joy of watching my children, learn to crawl and going from crawling to walking. And there's stumbling and there's backslides. And yet those are all these beautiful moments of progress. And so I think this whole process, the reminder I want to share is it's about the perseverance and not giving up and giving ourselves some grace when it feels like, crap, I didn't nail that. I didn't get it yet. But every moment of additional reflection that we are making progress, gosh, celebrate that. Celebrate it so much, because that's part of what helps build further momentum. And then the other piece that I wanted to bring in is again around perspective, and I've talked about this in some other videos as well. But I just want to underscore the value of that, because the way that we relate to life and what we give meaning, how we give meaning, it makes all the difference. When we're in a place of heightened emotion, it's difficult to really look at something from a positive perspective or from any different perspective than where we're at. And we want to kind of move through that and process that emotion out. But meanwhile, in normal, like everyday living, that's where we have a great opportunity to keep working with how do we relate with life and what gives us meaning. And Nietzsche said something really profound about, if we have a big enough why, a big enough meaning for life, we can bear almost anyhow. And it lends to the context of, suffering. And, if there's meaning to suffering, there's just something greater there that we can give, not only to ourselves, but even to humanity, our families, our greater communities. And also, suffering often is a reflection of how much we're resisting that which is. So the more we can get into that flow and that trusting of that greater universe or God or spirit, whatever, however that best resonates with you, the more that we lean into the adventure that is life, the gratitude that is life, how life is really for us. And so I just I hope this is helpful. I know sometimes I struggle with that messy middle more, and it was coming up some this week, and so it was kind of top of mind to share. But I really encourage you to look at ways that that you can change your relationship with meaning, and how that actually empowers you more. I've noticed it time and time again in my own life, in the way that I experience things. And I just want to leave with a story about something that's a really good example for this meaning and the perspective and what it can do. And you think about the story of two different Vietnam soldiers, and they actually experienced something very, very similar in the war, where they lost their best friend, and the person was tragically, blown up next to them. And the one person, because of that experience, they ended up spiraling into addictive behaviors and immense amount of bouts of depression and suffering, and a lot of challenge in life. And when asked about their experience and what that's led to for them in their life, the soldier said, well, how else would it be? I mean, life, you just never know what's going to happen. And I lost someone very dear to me, and you can't count on life, that, these horrible things happen. Another soldier that experienced a very similar thing went on to have a very fulfilling and happy and thriving life, and asked the same kind of question about, how they were able to, come out of such a tragic circumstance, and what their thoughts were on that, reflecting back. This person said, well, how else could I look at it? What a gift life is, because you don't know how much life you have, or how much time you'll have with those that you care about most. It can be gone in any moment. And so his attitude was to cherish every moment, make the most of every moment. And so interesting that both of these people had a very similar circumstance happen, but the trajectory of their lives was so very different as a result. And I think that's something that's a helpful reminder to kind of ground us in where we do have choice in the way that we give meaning to what's happening in our life, even the really, really hard stuff. And sometimes it takes some distance before we can get there, but we can get there if we keep working towards it, and we keep being open to it, and we keep being willing for it. So anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful week. Here's to your next level of empowerment and breaking free. If you like this video, please send a like, subscribe. Would love to hear any comments or about this topic, and how things have been for you in your process of self-mastery, and any other topics that you might be interested in hearing about. So have a great week, and I will see you next time. Thanks.